Welcome back to IS Net Study. We were discussing moral philosophy. In the last video, we talked about medieval thinkers. Now we are going to continue the discussion with modern philosophers, modern Western philosophers. Once we finish the modern Western philosophers, we are going to talk about Eastern philosophy also. So let's get into the discussion of this. And this is the 29th video in this ethics series. So the first modern Western philosophers we are going to have a discussion is Rene Descartes. See, what I'll do is, before explaining these slides, let me take a blank page and let me give an idea regarding core ideas or core philosophy of Rene Descartes. Then we are going to come back and we are going to have a discussion on these slides. So let's talk about Rene Descartes. Rene Descartes is a rationalist. See, if you look at the ancient philosophers, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, even they were also rationalists. But after ancient, the medieval philosophers, most probably the theology or religious doctrines have entered into the picture. Religious virtues, they have entered into the pictures. So rationality took a backstage. The revival of rationality happened in the 17th century, 18th century, during the modern period. So here the revival started with Rene Descartes. Again, he supported this idea of rationality here, but his rationality is supported by three factors. The first factor is reason, and the second factor is knowledge, and the third factor is free will. Sorry. So reason, knowledge, and the free will. See, these three are necessary or responsible to, if I want to become a rationalist, these three factors, reason, knowledge, free will, these are very much necessary. So let's talk about three separately. Reason. See, why reason is important. See, I use my reason in my decision making. So if I have to take a decision, or if I have to make an action, so I have to make a decision before that. So if my decisions, if my actions are based on reasoning, it means that there is a factor of knowledge. So if my decisions are based on logical reasoning, it is enhancing my knowledge. If my knowledge is enhanced, it will ensure sound judgment, right? If sound judgment, if I am making a sound judgment, it means that factor of wisdom is there in my characteristics. So if there is a factor of wisdom, eventually this will lead to the healthy mind. Healthy mind, usually it means that there are no negative attributes like vengeance, hatred, excessive desires. All these things will not be there when you think of healthy mind. So if I have healthy mind, eventually this is necessary to be happy in life. See, happiness is considered as a ultimate goal in Western philosophers. If you look at the Eastern philosopher, the ultimate goal is self-realization, moksha, nirvana, these kind of things. But if you look at the Western philosopher, the ultimate aim, ultimate goal or objective of the life is happiness. Even Aristotle talked about eudaimonia, that is ultimate satisfaction. So if you want to reach the ultimate goal of life, what is necessary? Reason is necessary. Reason leads you towards happiness. Reason is logical reasoning behind your decisions. It is responsible to achieve the ultimate goal in your life. This is one thing. And if I have knowledge, then I can make, I have a moral clarity in my life, I have a moral discipline in my life, and if I have knowledge, then I can make better choices, right? So the factor of reason is important to be rationalist. It means that to reach to ultimate goal of my life, knowledge is very much responsible to reach the ultimate goal of life. At the same time, free will is also very much necessary to reach towards the ultimate goal of life. Free will, it means that, see, if I have free will, then I make sure that this free will is used to make rational choices in my life. So all these factors are very much necessary, but there is a catch here. Catch is that all these factors should be backed by virtues. I'm using logical reasoning, but this logical reasoning should be backed by virtues. I'm using my knowledge to make a decision, but my knowledge should be backed by virtue. Virtues are positive attributes. And if I have a free will, then my free will should be backed by virtues, or If I don't have a virtues, then I can use this free will to do something negative. So if my free will is backed by positive elements, my free will is backed by positive attribute, positive value system like honesty, integrity, then eventually my life will be moral, my life will be ethical, and it will lead me towards happiness. So this is the core philosophy of Rene Descartes. Here it is, you have to be rationalist. In order to be rationalist, there are three elements required, and even these three elements need one thing, that is virtues. Ultimately that's the same thing. So Socrates talked about, Plato talked about, and the Aristotle talked about, but this is the refined version in the modern philosophy. So this is the core ideology or core philosophy of Rene Descartes. Now let's get back to the slide and let's talk about content of this slide. See, Rene Descartes is a French philosopher, he's a mathematician, he's a scientist, and he's considered as a father of modern Western philosophy. So I told you that uh, in the medieval period, the religious doctrines, all these things entered into the picture. So the rationality took a backseat. So this idea of rationalism, moral rationalism, these got revived during the Renaissance period. So it started with Rene Descartes, so he's considered as a father of modern Western philosophy. And there is one concept you need to remember with respect to Rene Descartes, is that he told that you have to doubt everything. When you doubt everything, then the logical reasoning enters. When there is a logical reasoning enters into the picture, you make informed decisions. You know what is moral, what is immoral, what is ethical, and what is unethical. Based on that, you take a decision. So the same thing in the ancient thinker Socrates also told the same thing. He told that question everything, don't accept the status quo, don't accept superstitions, don't accept blind beliefs. Question everything. If you convince it is moral, if you convince it is ethical, then accept it, then follow it, or else you reject it. This is what Socrates also told, that Rene Descartes also stick on to this idea of doubting everything. There are two concepts you need to remember with respect to Rene Descartes. The first is wax argument. What is this wax argument? Wax argument, see, a piece of wax changes its physical properties when melted. You have a, as an example, candle is there. When it is under flame, it changes, it becomes liquid. Before that it is solid, now it is liquid. But you still know that this is the wax. You still consider, even though it is liquid, it is different from the shape of candle, but you still know that this is wax, because you know that the real under you have the real understanding of properties of wax here. See, this is what he is connecting with morality here. See, whatever we sense, whatever we experience, that is not reality. Ultimate reality is something. Ultimate reality is intellect. Ultimate reality is reason. This is what he is talking about. See, this understanding, this idea of understanding or explanation of morality, this was seen in Plato also. Plato also talked about two realities, the higher reality and the realities at the materialistic world. But Aristotle rejected it. Aristotle told that whatever I see, whatever I experience, based on that, my morality is derived. But Plato told that there is a higher morality. The intellect, it is based on intellect, it is based on reasoning. We should reach towards higher morality. So this was given by Plato. The same thing has been uh, reformed or given in a different perspective by Rene Descartes. See, this is how you need to connect with the ancient thinkers, modern thinkers, and the contemporary thinkers here. So here the wax argument, it connects with that, connects with the idea of Plato here. And then see, this shows that knowledge does not come from senses but from the intellect. See, my intellect know that this is still wax, even though it has been melted, even though shape is changed, even though color has been changed, even though smell has been changed, but still I know that this is wax. Why? Because I know the reason, I know the understanding. So here intellect plays very important role here. So wax argument has been linked to the reasoning or intellect, understanding of morality, right? So this is one concept, wax argument. And second concept is that mind body dualism. See, mind body dualism, he proposed this concept of mind body dualism. Before that, usually a person individually is considered both combination of physical body as well as whatever I think, everything is me. But here he gave the different concept of mind and the body. Mind is separate entity, body is separate entity. Mind, it is it is filled with emotions, it is filled with experience, it is filled with uh, see what I can say, my experience, my emotions, all these things. But body, it has organs, and there is a physical presence to the body. But when it comes to the mind, there is no physical presence. You cannot prove the mind also. But still he says that mind is a separate entity, body is a separate entity. And what he's trying to say, he's trying to say that there is a free will. dualism is that mind is separate entity. If mind is separate entity, it means that there is a free will, and this free will, it gives me that moral choice. So out of this free will, I choose to be rational. So this is what he's connecting with. Free will is connecting with rationality, mind body dualism here. So he defended free will, arguing that humans are capable of rational choice. Again, he told that your free will should be backed by virtues. Your knowledge should be backed by virtues. Your free will should be backed by virtues. Your use of reasoning, the rationality should be backed by virtues. Virtue for Descartes consists in correct reasoning guiding action. See, another aspect you need to remember, the mind body dualism, he also mentions that your virtues, all these things, there is a factor of conscience. See, all these positive attributes is already there in your mind. Connected with the Socrates also told the same thing. See, there is a concept, I hope you remember, when you think of virtues, either it comes from conscience, is there already in you, it comes from your conscience, or it comes from your experience, or it can be taught education. There is a moral education. Socrates supported this idea, conscience, and here also Rene Descartes also support this idea of morality comes from conscience. So there is a free will and there is a conscience. Eventually this will lead you towards the rational choice. So this is what Rene Descartes is discussing. Wax argument, mind body dualism. So, and entire explanation of philosophy is given here. So let's move to the next philosopher. The next philosopher is Thomas Hobbes. Let's talk about Thomas Hobbes. Again, what I'll do is I'll go to the blank profile, I'll explain the Thomas Hobbes philosophy, then we'll get back and we'll have a discussion on this. So what exactly Thomas Hobbes talks about? Even during the bird view discussion, I told you that social contract theory. What exactly the social contract theory? There are two concepts you need to remember. The first concept is psychological egoism. What is the psychological egoism? Psychological egoism, it mentions that humans are self-centered. See, whatever I do, there is a self-interest behind it. This is what psychological egoism talks about. Even if I'm doing anything and I'm saying, and everybody thinks that there is an altruistic intention behind it, it means that I'm not expecting in return. Even in those activities, even in those acts also, there is a factor of self-interest. Even I'm doing charity, I am helping other person, but still, even in that charity, even in that helping nature, I am expecting something else. What am I expecting in charity? I am expecting the sense of satisfaction. If I am expecting sense of satisfaction out of my charity, that is also a self-interest, because I am feeling happy because of charity I am doing. So this is what psychological egoism is about. So he mentions that by nature, humans, we have this concept of self-interest and self-centered. Eventually this is psychological egoism. See, if there is a psychological egoism, it creates state of war. What is the state of war? State of war is that, see, I am working for my self-interest and you are working for your self-interest. Now what happens if there is a conflict between see, there is a tree there and there is an apple. I want that apple from the tree because I like the apple, I want to eat it, and I want it because there is a self-interest, and you also want the same apple because there is a factor of self-interest. You also want to eat it. The factor of that self-interest or self-centeredness is there. Now we both are fighting for this apple. So this create a state of war. I am fighting with you and you are fighting with another person. So entire society will be at war. There is no peace. Everybody is having some kind of conflict, because everybody is self-centered, everybody acting in self-interest. This is going to create conflicts in the society. So this create a state of war, constant state of war in my society, in my country, in my village. Now Thomas Hobbes tells that we have to move from this state of war to state of peace. I don't want this conflict. I don't want these misunderstandings. I want to live in peace. I want security. I want law and order. I want to have stability. So I want to live in state of peace. So how do you get into that state of peace? By the social contract theory. Here I am giving contract to somebody else to remove this conflict in my society. So who is that somebody else? It might be a ruler, it might be a government, or let's represent it as a state, sovereign state. Sovereign state. So this sovereign state, it I am giving responsibility to the sovereign state to remove this conflict. Now whatever I have given my rights, I've surrendered complete rights, that I'm telling the sovereign state that I'm going to listen whatever you say, but in return I want security, I want peace, I want stability, I want welfare. This is what I am expecting. Now whatever the rules make by this sovereign state, I have to obey it. If I don't obey it, then I can be punished. So I have to accept that punishment also. This is the arrangement of social contract theory. So social contract theory. So I am giving my rights. I'm surrendering my rights to a sovereign state, and sovereign state it is going to take care of me. See, if I break the rules, then I can be punished also. So this is the arrangement. This is what social contract theory Thomas Hobbes is talking about. This is the core idea of Thomas Hobbes. Now let's get back to the slides and let me explain the things. So Hobbes grounded his philosophy in materialism. Materialism, this is what psychological egoism. Everybody believes in, everybody acts out of self-interest. So materialism. So here, all events, human behavior arise from physical process in this material world. So there is a factor of self-interest. Now he wrote a book in there is a book Leviathan, and in that he talked about social contract, and he explains that there is a necessity of social contract to maintain peace and order, or else we will be in conflict. I will be in conflict with you throughout my life. I don't want that. So in order to remove that, we want a social contract. We are giving contract to third person to take care of law and order, peace, security, all these aspects. So there is a state of nature. The state of nature is nothing but that state of war, constantly in war. From that, we need to move towards state of peace. So for that, in order to move towards peace, the third entity that has to take the control. Now, the role of sovereign state, the ruler or the government. So, role of sovereign. So, to achieve peace, individuals must unconditionally transfer their right to self-defense and enforcement of sovereign authority. Now, I want peace, I want security. In order to have that, I have to surrender my rights, my right to self-defense to the sovereign authority. Now, sovereign authority is responsible for internal order. Between me and you, there is a conflict, and sovereign state is responsible to remove this conflict. At the same time, if there is an external threat from some other country, they are trying to attack us, attack our community or our country, then that should also be protected by sovereign state. And even if there are any disputes within that country, within the village, within the community, that should also be resolved by sovereign state. So these are the responsibility of sovereign states. If I don't listen to you, if I don't, sovereign state has made some rules, government has made some rules, if I don't listen to it, if I don't follow it, then I am liable to punishment. I have to accept the punishment. So this is the contract. There is a contract between me and government. I cannot say that only give this thing security and law and order, but I am not going to listen whatever you say. No, that is not going to happen. If you want peace and security, in turn, you are liable for everything. If you break the law, you are liable for punishment also. So this is what Thomas Hobbes is talking about. So he prioritized order and security over individual liberty. Here I am surrendering my rights. My rights have been completely surrendered to the state here. So individual liberty, it is below the order and security. So arguing that strong authority is essential to prevent chaos and ensure peaceful coexistence. So this is what Thomas Hobbes is talking about. I think yes. So you understood social contract theory. So here order and security is above the individual liberty. This is what Thomas Hobbes talking about. Now let's move to the next thinker, Rousseau. Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Actually, pronunciation is different. It's a French pronunciation. Let's stick on to the Rousseau. What exactly Rousseau is talking about? See, Rousseau, he extended this idea of social contract theory. The same thing. Social contract idea that I am giving my responsibility to the government is going to take care of me. But he told that here I am not surrendering complete rights. Here my consent has to be taken. See, a sovereign state has to take my consent. I have to give my consent. In Thomas Hobbes, there is no concept of consent. I am unconditionally, I'm submitting all my rights. But here, under the Rousseau, he told that the consent of the governed you're governing me, I have to give my consent to you. So maybe in a vague sense I can say that through the election I'm giving my consent to the government. Based on that consent, you are making a decision, you are making rules. So consent is required. So he refined this idea of social contract, he expanded this idea of social contract theory, right? And another aspect he told that, see, why this consent is required, I'll explain you that also. There is, ultimately, if you look at the Western philosophy, the happiness or being happy, this is the ultimate aim. If you think of happiness among humanity, it is in between two extremes. Happiness in humanity between two extremes. One extreme is civic sense, it is civility, and another extreme is wilderness or wildness. I'm extremely civil. Another extreme is wild. Here I am obey every rules and restrictions you make. This is civility. Another extremity is I am not going to obey anything. Whatever rules government make, I am not going to make that. But he told that, Rousseau told that if I want to be happy, then I need a middle path. If I am in middle, because if I am surrendering complete rights, it means that I am living like a slave. So in civility, there is no freedom. I've surrendered my complete rights. Me being an individual, if I have to be happy, what is the basic criteria of happiness? It is the freedom. If I have freedom, I can do whatever I want. But that freedom has some restrictions. So here, even I'm not complete wildness, I'm not doing anything. If there is a complete freedom, what happens? If I want to kill somebody, I can kill somebody. Again, I'm going to create trouble for the other people. I'm going to create trouble for the society. So the restricted freedom, the concept of freedom, that has to be in between the civility and in between the wilderness. How do you get this uh, that happiest state of humanity? This middle path is called happiest state of humanity. How do you get this? Through this consent. This consent ensures freedom, and this freedom ensures happiest state of humanity, that is between middle, one extremity civility, another extremity wilderness. This is the core ideology or core philosophy of Rousseau here. And again, Rousseau also told that morality, it comes from consciousness. Socrates also told the same thing, and Rousseau also talked about the same thing. Morality comes from the conscience. So this is what you need to remember. The same thing, social contract theory, but here the consent has to be taken from the people. People have to give the consent. So consent of the governed should be. You should keep these things in mind, in your mind. Now let's get into the discussion of these slides. See, he has given a famous statement: "Man is born free, but everywhere he is in chains." Mainly, he talked about the political institution, the governments, all the this philosophy is given at 18th century, but still it is applicable at every point of time. And he talked about modern political institution. Man is born free, but everywhere he is in chains. He talked about those institutions, which political institutions, which suppress the natural freedom of human beings. Ultimately, the core concept of Rousseau is that individual freedom, actually individual freedom, individual liberty. He talked about all these things very precisely. It is the freedom, because later on, this idea of individual rights, the freedom, that has been expanded. The social contract by Thomas Hobbes has been expanded by Rousseau. Again, this social contract is expanded even further by further philosophers. Actually, they have refined this idea. In that refinement, they have refined this freedom, liberty, uh, all these aspects, equality, all these aspects have also been included into it. So here, Rousseau, whenever you think of Rousseau, the core ideology, it is that consent, and the why it is required, because of the freedom. He believed that ideal condition of humanity lies between primitive wildness and excessive civilization. This is what I told you, that the middle path, is happiest state of humanity. One side is excessive civility, excessive wildness, right, where freedom and social order are balanced. See, here what happens, the freedom and social order are there. I have freedom, but this freedom is conditioned, certain condition to this freedom, that is social order. My freedom has the conditions applied to my freedom, that condition is social order. My freedom is restricted to the social order. And Rousseau placed strong emphasis on conscience, viewing it as an inner moral guide besides rational calculation. So If I have these positive attributes in me, those positive attributes will be a guiding factor. Though these positive attributes guides my decisions, guides my actions, right? And again, social contract theory and political authority. Rousseau argued that legitimate political authority can rise only from consent of all the people. So I have to give my consent. Individuals enter into a social compact for, why do we need the social contract at first place? It is for mutual preservation, it is for collective well-being. See, we are in constant state of war. We don't want that. What do we want? That we want state of peace. State of peace means that mutual preservation, collective well-being. For that we want social contract. And the core principle of social contract is that government derives its authority from consent of the governed. I have to give my consent. You are governing me, I have to give my consent. He described the social contract as an act of association. It is an association because there is a mutual association between government and me. I am giving you rights, at the same time you have to protect my rights also. You have to give peace, you have to ensure security. So it creates mutual obligation between individual and state. My obligation is that I am going to listen to you, I am going to obey you. At the same time you have the obligation, your obligation is to create that environment, freedom environment under social order. And citizens collectively share sovereign power, while subjects they obey law that express general. This is what I am explaining. Social contract theory, here consent has to be ensured. So this is what Rousseau is talking about. I think this is it. I am going to take up further thinkers in the next video. John Locke, we are going to talk about John Locke and Voltaire and Immanuel Kant, and then utilitarianism. We are going to complete in the next video. Thank you for listening. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good time.